Hey, what's up guys? Tommy West back here again with another video, and just one more final word on the whole JJ Reddick expansion draft watered down era comment thing. I dropped another video a couple days ago, which I thought had a killer point in it, that being that although uh, 6 teams were added during Jordan's playing career, expansion teams added to the league. We also saw what Bleacher Report called, what was it, 6 of the top 10 draft classes of all time also came in during Jordan's era, including the number 1 draft class of all time being Jordan's draft class 1984, where we saw Jordan, Stockton, Barkley, Hakeem Olajuwon, Sam Perkins, Alvin Robertson, and many others. That Bleacher Report article also had 1996 draft class ranked number 2, the Kobe, Ray Allen, Steve Nash, Allen Iverson draft. Number 3, they had 1985, Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing, Chris Mullin, Joe Dumars, etc., etc. And number 5, they had 1987 draft, David Robinson, Reggie Miller, Scottie Pippen, Kevin Johnson, Mark Jackson, some all-time greats. And number 8, they had ranked the 1998 draft, that being Dirk Nowitzki, Paul Pierce, Vince Carter, Antoine Jameson, Mike Bibby, and the likes. Yeah, I thought that was a great point, that even though teams were added and the league was expanding, we also saw some of the greatest influx of talent ever come in during Jordan's playing career. I did check, because that was Bleacher Report, I did check a few other sources, what they had ranked as the top draft classes of all time, and I found a couple. Nothing from ESPN or anything super reputable like that, more just independent articles. But even the most recent one I saw had 2 of the top 3 draft classes in Jordan's playing career and 3 of the top 10, and that's including that was including drafts up until this last one. But another point I wanted to make, because I'd be out here in the comment sections of YouTube and Facebook fighting a good fight and trying to spread what NBA knowledge I have. Something else to consider is the draft. Like I said, the draft, the expansion draft, they weren't just picking guys off the street. They didn't go to the local Y and draft guys to come in and play in the NBA. They were all NBA players, real legit NBA players from NBA teams, and they got selected onto the expansion teams. And I thought it was interesting that some guys who we may have never really seen get a chance to shine, got some shine on the expansion teams from coming off another team's bench and getting a chance to start and actually play. The main one that jumped out to me in my head was Scott Skiles. 1988 and 1989, Scott Skiles was getting about 20 minutes per game coming off the bench for Indiana, I believe. And he was giving you about 7 points and 5 assists per game. Right. Okay, backup numbers. He got a chance to start in Orlando, who took him in the expansion draft. And his first year, he didn't see a giant increase in his minutes. So his numbers were pretty much what they had been. But in 1990, in the 1990-91 season, he saw an increase of about 14 minutes per game, and he improved his scoring by 10 points a game. And he went from 5 assists a game to 8.5 assists a game. That's also the season where he set the single season NBA record, or single game NBA record rather, for most assists in a game. Man got 30 dimes in one game, playing on an expansion team. And he won most improved player that year. Interesting to note, not really relevant for the point I'm trying to make, but interesting to note, the year before that, a player from the Miami Heat won most improved player. So take that for what you will. And I mentioned this, as I said, to somebody in some comments, and I was like, so you see, some guys, we saw some guys get a chance to shine that they may not normally have gotten. And the guy commented back, oh, did we see some guys or did we see one guy? And like I said, Scott Skiles jumped out in my mind because when I was younger and I got into the NBA, I studied the record books like crazy. Like I was very interested in all the NBA records. So I knew Scott Skiles had the single season or single game record for most assists, and he popped out to me. But I was quick to answer back to that gentleman that the Charlotte Hornets a good expansion draft, and they also got some players who weren't getting a lot of minutes playing backup roles, get to be starters and get to have a more active role. First of all, being Steph Curry's dad, Del Curry. Del Curry played in Cleveland and on the bench, averaged about 20 minutes per game, and gave you about 9 or 10 points in those 20 minutes. Again, decent. But in Charlotte, he saw a much bigger role. Now, he would come off the bench for most of his career in Charlotte. But with increased minutes, increased playing time, increased shot attempts, he'd become known as one of the best three-point shooters in the league. And his points per game got up to like 15. He finished among the finalists like 6 times in the 90s for Sixth Man of the Year, and he won Sixth Man of the Year in 1994. And that record has fallen since, but he retired as the #1 leading scorer in Charlotte Hornet history. Another guy that Charlotte picked up in the expansion draft, who also was seeing less than 20 minutes per game on his team, was my man Muggsy Bogues. Shortest player in NBA history, 5'3", which explains why, he didn't get a great opportunity. He was relegated to a backup role, and he wasn't, he didn't get a whole lot of minutes. Why are you going to play the damn midget? Even in the 90s, even in the 80s and 90s, most of your point guards were 6 foot, at least. You would see a couple of guys 5'10", 5'11", but Muggsy Bogues, 5 foot 3 inches tall. Well, the big thing with Muggsy, he never scored a huge amount of points. He was never a big scoring threat for obvious reasons, but what he was a great facilitator and an excellent defender. Now, in '88, playing for the Washington Bullets, I believe, he finished the season as the number 31 in the league in assists per game. 31st in the league in assists. In 1989, his first season with the Hornets, he would move up to 12th in the league in assists per game. By 1990, he was number 3 in the league in assists. And in 91, 92, 93, and 1994, he was number 4. He finished top 4 in the league in assists per game. And in 1995, he was back up to top 3, number 3 in the league in assists per game. For his career, he would average 7.6 assists per game. And another thing that I always knew from studying records and from being a Charlotte Hornets fan is he had an insane assist to turnover ratio. At one point, it was like 5 assists to 1 turnover. For a season, we're talking. He finished his career 4.69 assists to 1 turnover. And again, as I said, a great defender by his own right, even though he would turn the ball over that 1.6 times per game. That was his career average, 1.6 turnovers every game, playing 30 plus minutes, handling the ball every possession, 1.6 turnovers. He averaged 1.5 steals per game. So every turnover he had was pretty much negated by his defense on the other end. I mean, the guy was just incredibly solid with the basketball. So, yeah. Was every player in those expansion drafts diamonds in the rough, hidden talent? No, certainly not. There were some bums at the end of some benches that got taken in the expansion draft, and bums they continued to be, but we did see a handful of guys get a chance to really showcase their talent, whereas they may have spent their career as a backup, playing less than 20 minutes a game and not really getting a chance to showcase their skills or affect winning in any real tangible way with the teams that they were on. And I've heard it argued that the expansion drafts actually help the league's best teams by allowing them to shed unwanted contracts and free up roster spots for free agents that might be available or might become available. And so there's always going to be your bottom 5 teams are always going to suck no matter what. That's just how it averages out. You can't have 60 win teams. You can't have teams winning 60 plus games a season without having some teams losing all those fucking games. That the expansion had to have some effect, watering down teams, not teams in the playoff picture, but again the middling teams in the league, I guess, and the worst teams in the league, and just watering down the talent pool overall, I guess. But he said it's got to for a couple of seasons at least. So if you take the 88 and 89 expansion drafts and say, yeah, the league was watered down for a couple of seasons. Well, when did Michael Jordan start winning championships? A couple of seasons after that, in 1991, in 1992, and 1993. So how much effect did 88 expansion really have on those teams? And if you want to say that, if you want to say that the 1995 expansion, the Canada expansion, watered down the league for his second three-peat. Okay, maybe you got a case there, but let's not forget who was the number one pick in the draft, in the expansion draft for the Toronto Raptors. Who was the first player selected? Three-time NBA champion, former All-Star, the Chicago Bulls' very own B.J. Armstrong. You could say that 95 expansion hurt the Chicago Bulls more than anybody else. And again, JJ Reddick was adamant about this point that he's only talking about playoffs here. He's only talking about regular season here. The expansion doesn't have anything to do with the playoffs or the playoff teams. Well, then what are we even talking about, JJ? Who really cares? Nobody, although they should. They definitely should make the case when you're arguing Michael Jordan for the GOAT that he had the 70-win season. And right after that, he had a 69-win season, 68 or 69-win season. We should bring that up in the GOAT debate. But nobody ever does. Nobody ever talks about regular season records for Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls. So why is JJ Reddick even bringing this watered down thing up if it doesn't affect the playoffs and it didn't affect Jordan's championship runs? Is it that he's just trying to throw another false narrative out there for uninformed people to run with? A narrative that he, again, completely divorced himself from. You know, I'm not saying it mattered when it mattered most, but didn't it matter a little bit that there was an expansion era? No, JJ. The expansion didn't water down the league. I think Gilbert Arenas said what watered down the league was before the expansion era, when you had like 7 rounds of the NBA draft. That when people were drafting guys who would never set foot on an NBA court. That watered down the league. You know what watered down the league? After Jordan retired. After 2003, when we had seen it a few times before. High schools players being taken top in the draft, taken high in the draft. But it exploded after LeBron James. You know, we had Kevin Garnett and Jermaine O'Neal and Kobe Bryant, and I'm sure there's a couple others. Not Joe Smith. Who am I thinking of? The Atlanta Hawks. I can't think of it. The guy from the Atlanta Hawks. Yeah, we had seen it a couple times before of high draft picks being used on high school players. But after LeBron came into the league and everyone was certain he was going to change the game right out the gate, we saw high school players getting taken all the time. That watered down the league. See, before, when you were making a draft pick, most of the time you were picking a guy who had played at least 2 years of college basketball. Guys who weren't just super talented. I'm not saying that some of the high school athletes aren't amazing talents. But not just guys who are super talented, guys who are fundamentally sound, and guys who were coachable, guys who had been coached, guys who had been in high pressure situations in the NCAA tournament and so forth. And those typically were the high draft picks. I mean, it wasn't until the early 2000s that it was seen as a negative to pick somebody who spent 4 years in college. Like now, if somebody spends 4 years in college, they're too old to be a first-round draft pick. Used to be you were too young to be a first-round draft pick. And all those young, untested players coming into the league, that watered down the league. So, anyway, yeah. Those are just some more thoughts I had about the expansion draft thing. Like I said, it came up through conversations with some of you guys online. Thanks for listening to an old head rant about it for a minute. Like, comment, and subscribe if you want to. I used to be predominantly a 2K channel. I did 2K videos uploads. Now I'm thinking I'm going to do more just straight up sports rants and talking about the game that I love so much. So if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe and share, and maybe I can get some traction this way. But either way, thanks for listening. Peace.